England versus New Zealand Test series. Um, I think they're playing 3 Test matches for this series as a precursor, perhaps, to the one Test that is remaining between India and England from the last year that got cut short by the COVID situation. Anywho, it's quite an interesting start to the Test series. England batted first. No, New Zealand batted first. Got bowled out for 132 under the leadership of Ben Stokes, who's a refreshing change as a captain of England. Then England batted and got themselves bowled out for 141. There were some interesting theories that were flying about that over 20 wickets fell on the first 2 days, or 20 plus wickets fell on the first 2 days, which is quite unusual or not heard of when we're talking about cricket being played overseas. Relates to outside of the subcontinent. A lot of noise is made anytime wickets fall in a heap in the subcontinent region, that the pitches are bad, the conditions are not true, and all that. And well, when this happens in England, then of course it's the batter's fault, and the bowling is spectacular. But I guess the people who do talk about this a lot are relatively quiet, I hope. But that's neither here nor there. This is quite an interesting time for Ben Stokes as a captain. With New Zealand falling to 132 in the first innings, I think they must have given a lot of impetus to Ben Stokes, who comes with a lot of fresh energy, bringing back Broad and Anderson, which I think is the right move. How could you drop them in the first place? Which is an unbelievable move. I could not imagine why we would do that. But I think the past leadership was motivated in certain ways which could not be explained. A lot of people were overlooked. Not a lot of people were backed. I think the policies or the decisions that were made did not make much sense, to say the least. How you could drop somebody like Broad and Anderson, who were nearing the end of their career but still have enough fuel left in them to deliver the firepower that you need, that could get you the wickets, is beyond. I mean, I don't have words. I can't imagine why you would do this. But things seem to be heading in the right direction. Cannot recall the name of the gentleman who's taken over the role of managing director of English cricket, but I think he's taken the right steps, bringing back Broad and Anderson. I think Ollie Robinson perhaps is injured or for some reason has not played, but I think Potts is a newcomer who's taken quite a few wickets, pressed quite a bit. Now, what happens in a situation like this? When the visiting team gets bundled out for 132, I always believe if the other team could fall or falter so easily, you need to be a little careful, because this can also happen to you, which it did to England. Now, whether it was conditions, whatever it was, I think they needed to be a little bit more cautious. You need to have bravado and fear at the same time. You should not be thinking that this could only happen to the visiting team because we are so great. I think now I'd like to believe that England did have the right mindset. They were mindful of these things. But then again, you've also got spectacular and quality bowlers in the New Zealand team who did their job quite well and bundled England out for 141, just giving a lead of 9 runs. So I think the game was evenly poised. You could say this is a 3-day game now, with both teams playing on a clean slate. And now New Zealand catch hold of the situation, take it into their hands, and now are 236 for 4. 227 runs ahead. And the two batsmen are quite well set. I think it's Daryl Mitchell and Tom Blundell who are doing deep into the 90s. Yeah, I think England are in a spot of bother because 227 on a pitch like that. Now maybe the conditions have eased, but the fact that a team which was really down and buried on the first day of a test match at Lords, where over the years the pitch seems to have gotten quite flat, or at least every time India has played there, it seemed to have gotten quite flat. I don't know, maybe they laid a new pitch or whatever, the conditions were overcast, but something out of the unusual happened. Now, how England gathered themselves up, does Ben Stoke instill enough courage and determination into the team to face this challenge, which is not yet done, which is not yet complete or put forward, as I might say, or I would say, for England to chase. So this is quite a tricky scenario for England. You've got a new captain who seems full of fresh energy, and you're already on the back foot because maybe you took it a little bit easy. So I'm rooting for England because New Zealand, they're just a spoiled sport. They're a small nation, but man, do they produce quality cricketers. I don't know what do. They just continue to produce match winners. And of course, you've got Brendan McCullum as the coach of England. So, well, I think if anybody can rejuvenate or encourage or play, get the English players to play attacking and assertive cricket. I'm not just talking about aggressive cricket. Assertive cricket. It could be, or it would have to be Brendan McCullum. Having said all that, this I would not want to be in England's shoes right now. I would want to take it as a challenge, but I think you're going to have a lot more grey hair sitting in that dressing room, looking at the situation that you're in as a player or as a support staff, because this is not what you envisioned in the first test match, and definitely not something a captain would want in their first test match. This England could be facing defeat, unless, of course, the batters show up. Anywho, if New Zealand posts a target of over 350 runs, chasing 350 runs is never easy in the last innings. So this could get really tricky because New Zealand has good bowlers. And I think they came prepared and they showed up. So my prediction, it's over. I think New Zealand walk away with this one. I'd be surprised if England do, because I think it's one of those situations where you've got a boxing match. Boxing is not a game. You've got a boxing match. The guy knocks the other guy down, celebrates, and the other guy comes back, knocks you down, and now is pounding on you. So, do you still have the fire left in you, or you're, let's say you're taking the beating of this rejuvenated fighter, and you're trying to get this guy exhausted and then waiting for your own counter punch. Now the question is, how long, or will the counter punch come? Because England have to finish New Zealand off as soon as possible. The fact that it's overcast, it is delayed by rain, could work in England's favour, but it has to be fast. You cannot relent. But as an outsider, watching how the situation looks like, my money's on New Zealand. How badly New Zealand beats England, or does England manage to secure a draw or an unlikely victory over England, that will determine how the series progresses and where the series is. Of course, it's summer, it's English summer, so you could always expect rain. But we'll go match by match, day by day, and see how and where we land. But yes, my money is on New Zealand to come good on this one. Ooh, I am excited about this game. I really am. Now, moving along. West Indies is playing Netherlands. How the mighty have fallen. Um, but I guess when I say mighty have fallen, I'm talking about a, a nation that used to be feared by all cricketing nations all across the world. When I say all across the world, that's put loosely because cricket internationally is played only in a few countries. Anyhow, uh, West Indies is playing Netherlands in Amstelveen. So, I mean, till now, I think West Indies has been. Did I say New Zealand? I meant West Indies. West Indies has been doing good. I think that you cannot relent. You have to beat all the countries which are minnows. In this case, Netherlands, and keep going forward. I think West Indies. I think they did miss out on one important World Cup stop a few. Maybe last year it was. That was not a good look for a country which has a rich history of cricket. So my best wishes to West Indies that they come good, and I'll be watching, of course. They've got some quality players like Kyle Myers, who did an amazing job in one of the games where I think it was against England, perhaps, where he scored a magnificent 100, saw the team through. He's not lived up to his name ever since then, but you know, like they say, class is permanent, form is temporary. I hope he really comes good. I would like to have, or everyone in the cricketing world would like to have a strong uh, contender like West Indies, always like New Zealand is. That's the team to reckon with. And New Zealand has always had good players. Has always been a team which could just surprise you. And it's a team which is feared, even though this New Zealand is not a country which is sometimes taken very seriously. But every time they visit someone or you're visiting New Zealand to play them, it's always. I mean, your ears get a little warm because there is going to be pressure because they are really coming to win. They don't fool around. The same way, I would hope West Indies tighten their shoes up, buckle up their laces, pull up their socks, and I hope the administrator try to not ruin the cricket in West Indies. You cannot be doing this. So let's see where that lands. Afghanistan is playing Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe the same way like West Indies, not as feared as West Indies was, but Zimbabwe always had good players. They were also a team which was a quality side. Um, they're playing in Harare, which I remember being a young kid watching India playing Zimbabwe in Harare, and you would always go like, "Oh, that's it's going to be a tricky game." It always was a tricky game when India was playing Zimbabwe. It was never easy. I remember this one match where I think it turned out to be a tie because Robin Singh got out and he played an amazing knock. I think 35 or 36 runs, and then right at the last moment got run out. I think it was not Fanny de Villiers. It was Edo Brandis maybe was bowling. I can't recall his name, but he was a good bowler. Uh, so my best wishes to Afghanistan and Zimbabwe. Afghanistan, of course, the resurgent, or not the resurgent, but the upcoming team. And you've got some good quality players in Zimbabwe as well, who with time will step up, hopefully. So, of course, watching for that match as well, or tracking that match. I would talk about it as in the next episode that I put out. And well, the last series, upcoming series is India versus South Africa in India. They'll be playing 5 T20s. The players like Rohit Sharma and Kohli have been rested, thankfully. I think Kohli has played way too much cricket. A lot of expectations. I think he's just jaded. He's trying very hard, but sometimes just nothing ever works. You're just too tired. You're groggy. You can have as many Red Bulls as you want, but it will not work. I think he's arrived at that point in his, I won't say career, because that would mean it's going downhill. I would say he's arrived at that point in the current current run. Yeah, that would be the word. He's been playing non-stop. He's been performing well, and then he just hit a downward slope. Um, Hoping that this break allows him some respite, some mental cobwebs get removed, and then they go to England, which is a series away, which is of course going to be a pressure series. Of course, you would want to win that series, to reclaim as a nation who's beaten every major cricketing nation. Of course, South Africa, I think the series got drawn, but I think that was the catalyst where ever since then India really performed quite well. I may be wrong about the South Africa series. Maybe India did beat them 2-1. I'm not sure. I can always check. Anyway, India went ahead, beat South Africa after a terrible first game, which was quite amazing, shocked the whole world, and beat Australia quite handily. And then went to England. I think India 2-1 up or something on those lines. Or it's something quite interesting that the series, how the series is, the status quo of the series. Let's see how and where that leads to. Now, yeah, I think Rohit Sharma also deserves some rest. He had a terrible IPL. Kohli did as well. Kohli did have one score. I don't know where that came from because there was no indication that he would perform well at all. And I think after that one score where he had 79 or 78, he did not come off too well. I think it just goes in the same vein as like I said before. He's just jaded. He's just done. He needs a break. Maybe he needs an extended break, like Ravi Shastri said. You don't realize what players are going through, how much stress there is of these bubbles, bio-bubbles. Of course, none of us can imagine, but it's a high-pressure job. You paid well, but the pressure of the expectation, everyone's watching you. One mistake, I mean, it's just one mistake. And a lot of times it's not even a mistake that you're making. It's just, you just get an unplayable ball and I don't know. Like I said, it's the Red Bull thing. Perhaps too many Red Bulls. Not that I'm saying he takes Red Bull, but just one of those things where you've just done everything possible, nothing is working, and you just need to go to sleep. Wake up fresh and then start your day. I think he's just too good a player to be stuck in this spot for too long. Think it will come good. Just needs that break. Rohit Sharma as well. I hope he comes good as well. Both are in the final. In the final part of their career, not the end part of their career, but the beginning of the end of the career. I think they've got still a few good years left till they start to decline, where it's obvious, they've got some where they will back out, because of course not everyone is going to be playing till 39 and still performing well like Sachin did. So I'm hoping the next 2-3 years that these guys do perform, they really do perform at the top of their ability. And then of course, new players do come in, and then the older generation makes way for the younger ones. I think some new faces have been picked. I have a feeling Arshdeep from Punjab Kings, I think they renamed the squad last year. So he's been picked. He's looked quite impressive in the time that he's performed in the IPL. Yeah, KL Rahul will be the captain. Avesh Khan gets a look in. I think he played a few months ago. Didn't come off too well, but you got to persist. Surprisingly, Ruturaj Gaikwad has had a quiet IPL, which was unexpected. Deepak Hooda gets a call in. I have not followed him, how his domestic career has been, but he's definitely done some good things to be considered for the India squad. I think he was rated quite highly even in the IPL and did perform well, reasonably well, let's say. Venkatesh Iyer had the second year IPL syndrome. I don't know how either is the first year first IPL year syndrome where you do really well in the first year, you have a bad second year, and then come back good. So got my fingers crossed for him as well. The former architect. I hope he builds a good innings. Bad joke. Dinesh Karthik, the resilient Dinesh Karthik has made a comeback to the Indian team. I think he's always been put in a spot where it was too difficult to come good for an extended period of time. But I think he's persisted. He's looked quite good. I hope they give him a long enough run, because we had too many players who've just been given a look in, and that's about it. So I'm hoping the best for him. Kuldeep Yadav finally comes back as well. I do not know what happened there, why he was being mistreated as badly as he has been. Although he's been a good quality bowler for quite a while. So that needs to be looked at. Hardik Pandya, who's had an incredible IPL. I think the first match I saw Gujarat Titans play, I was enamored by how the team looked. I did not follow the IPL auction that well. I think you can't really judge just because you've got superstars in the team that, it's a guarantee. It's not a guaranteed formula or recipe for success. But I saw how Shami bowled in the first game. I think he got a couple of wickets bowled. And I think I told one of my friends, I like how Gujarat Titans is looking. I think they just might do it. I think it was an energy factor. They just seemed fresh, looked hungrier. I think fresh is the word. They just looked too fresh, really fresh. Not too fresh, just the right amount. And I think a lot of people who were written off, like Hardik himself, David Miller, Rashid Khan was discarded by Sunrisers for... In the beginning, it seemed inexplicable, but I think after what Muralidharan said, it did make sense to an extent. I think that team had got, I think, a little jaded. They had the same group for quite a while. And his reasoning was that the other teams, instead of attacking him, were just taking him too carefully. They were not attacking him. They were trying to play out his overs, which could work in your favor as well. Because you've got 4 good overs. And if one guy is putting the pressure on one end, you can always get wickets on the other. So it's not entirely his fault that the team was not performing well. So to single him out, yeah, but you've got high stakes situation in the IPL, so a lot of decisions are made ruthlessly, not always objectively. So yeah, whatever. I think he did well. I think he's quite happy at the new franchise where he is. Umran Malik, quite a find this year. Very fast. They're talking very highly of him. Just hope he's looked after well and he plays for a while. And when I say a while, I am talking a longer and extended period of time, because you don't get express fast bowlers as him who are just bowling 150 plus not consistently. So I hope he's looked after and managed well, and not too much tinkering is done with his confidence and his ability. I'm rooting for him. And Harshal Patel, of course, he's got quite an interesting story as well. He's been taken into team, discarded, shouted at, made fun of, and I think he's been through a lot. But you've got to commend the effort that he's put in, the desire to make a mark. That was something which stood out. You don't see too many players who fall off the radar, come back, fall off the radar, come back, and then just make an amazing mark on everybody else. After so many disappointing seasons. I think you can expect something like that from a very big name, but he was not very highly rated. So for somebody like him to keep the motivation level up and just dig till he hits uh, the bottom layer in the ground and extracts water and digs a well finally, that's quite commendable. So I'm quite excited. On the other end, you've got Bavuma captaining South Africa. That guy is just all guts. So I've got this to be a very highly contested series. I would give India a slight edge because it's home conditions. It's T20s and the players are fresh from the IPL. Of course, some of the players from South African team were also playing in the IPL, so this could go either way. You never know. A few good overs, and the game just changes or turns direction in either for could go for either team. So it would be an interesting couple of weeks during which this 5 T20s will be played. So I'm excited. I hope you are too. I'll be watching these games, try to put out more content, and hopefully give some interesting cricketing sense going forward. See ya.